All right, today we are in Daniel 7. Now, the first 6 chapters were about Daniel and his life with the different kingdoms, and now we're going to get into the chapters that are all about prophecy. I want to start out talking a little bit about God and time. I think sometimes one difficulty we have understanding the word is that we don't understand that God doesn't see time like we do. God is a spiritual being. He's eternal. He's omnipresent. He's omniscient. And he created time as a property here on this earth. God is not confined to time. He's totally outside the boundaries of time. It's sometimes I look at, say, just a simple illustration might be if there's, you see a parade, a long parade, you know, it starts here and it ends down here, and then, but you're standing here, you can just see one little piece of it, but there's this helicopter way up there, and it can see the end from the beginning, you know, and God's kind of like that. He sees time and on this earth like that. He can see, he created us at the very beginning, and he knows what's going to happen at the end and everything in between. So that's why he chose to speak to some prophets and men in times past and reveal some of the things that were going to happen in the future. And just to give us a glimpse of those events. Now, chapters 7 through 12 are a series of dreams and visions that were given to Daniel about future times. And we're going to see that some of these actually took place before chapters 5 and 6. So Daniel's kind of in 2 parts, and this is the part of the visions and dreams. Let's go ahead and look at Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. And remember, I'm reading from the ESV version. All right. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel saw a dream and visions of his head as he lay in his bed. Then he wrote down the dream and told the sum of the matter. Daniel declared, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. Then, as I looked, its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man. And the mind of a man was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second one, like a bear. It was raised up on one side. It had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and it was told, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I looked, and behold, another, like a leopard, with 4 wings of a bird on its back. And the beast had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. As I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, its wheels were burning fire. A stream of fire issued and came out from before him. 1,000,000 served him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened. I looked then because of the sound of the great words that the horn was speaking. And as I looked, the beast was killed, and its body destroyed, and given over to be burned with fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away, but their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. The Son of Man is given dominion. I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like the Son of Man, and he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. As for me, Daniel, my spirit within me was anxious, and the visions of my head alarmed me. I approached one of those who stood there and asked him the truth concerning all this. So he told me, and made known to me the interpretation of the things. These 4 great beasts are 4 kings who shall rise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever. Then I desired to know the truth about the 4th beast, which was different from all the rest, exceedingly terrifying, with its teeth of iron and claws of bronze, and which devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. And about the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn that came up, and before which 3 of them fell, the horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke great things, and that seemed greater than its companions. As I looked, this horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given for the saints of the Most High, and the time came when the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, As for the 4th beast, there shall be a 4th kingdom on the earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms. And it shall devour the whole earth and trample it down and break it to pieces. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them. He shall be different from the former ones, and shall put down 3 kings. He shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the law, and they shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. But the court shall sit in judgment, and his dominion shall be taken away, to be consumed and destroyed to the end. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. His kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. Here is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly alarmed me, and my color changed, but I kept the matter in my heart. All right, back to verse 1. Verse 1 tells us when Daniel had this vision. He says it was in the 1st year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon. So that's how we know that it took place before chapter 5, because we've already seen the destruction of Belshazzar, right? So
why was this, I thought about that when I was reading this, so why in this chapter, since he had that dream at that point in time, why is it here in chapter 7 and not?
Well, they decided to just, the first 6 are just about Daniel and his life and his influence on the kingdoms. And then they decided to put all of the visions and the dreams together in another section. And that's another thing I think sometimes that we have trouble with as Westerners reading the Bible, is because we want everything to be in chronological order, just right, you know, and it isn't always. And we're going to see even in this chapter, we're going to jump back and forth. And sometimes that happens. So they just decide to put all the dreams and the visions and prophecies together in one section for those who are studying those. So the first year of Belshazzar's reign was 553 BC. This was actually 14 years before the fall of Babylon. So remember we said when Babylon fell and Belshazzar said, oh, I'll make you third in the kingdom. And Daniel said, never mind. He already knew that Babylon was about to fall. God told him 14 years earlier, right? So he wasn't interested in being third in the kingdom. Also, it says that when he wrote down the dream, he told the sum of the matter. In other words, it wasn't word for word. He kind of gave a summary of it, right? Just a summary of what he saw. He couldn't remember it word for word, or maybe it wasn't all that God told him to write down. In verse 2, he says, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. The word for winds can be translated spirits. In Zechariah 6:5, it speaks of four spirits of heaven who go out from their station before the Lord of all the earth. And then in verse 7, it says, they walk to and fro throughout the earth. So they are heavenly agents carrying out God's purposes. Now let's look. Now I'm going to have you turn to Revelation and keep your finger in Revelation, because we're going to go back there a lot of times. We're going to start at Revelation 7:1. Revelation chapter 7, verse 1. After this, I saw four angels standing at the four corners of the earth, holding back the four winds of the earth, that no wind might blow on earth or sea or against any tree. So here in Revelation, we see it's talking about four angels on the four corners of the earth. And we see that they're carrying out God's purposes there. And so we can look back to Daniel and see that these are the same four. Throughout the Bible, we see different places where it's talking about the four spirits. And this is just one example out of Revelation about the four spirits of God. And they are, like I said, carrying out God's purposes. So it's important to understand Daniel in order to fully understand Revelation. These are forces of judgment restrained until God's timing. He says now. And whatever's happening on earth is driven by forces that God permits and controls. In Daniel's time and in our time. It says that they were stirring up the great sea. Now, whenever we see the Great Sea in Scripture, it almost always refers to the Mediterranean Sea. In Numbers, when it's talking about the boundaries of the land for the 12 tribes, it says it's from the Great Sea to the Euphrates, and that the Great Sea is a boundary. So that's how we know that's the Mediterranean Sea, and also how we know that right now it's referring to those around the Mediterranean world. So Israel at that time. All right, verse 3. Four great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another. Let's look at verse 17 real quick. Just jump over to 17.
17, Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel 7:17, verse 17. Yes. It says, these four great beasts are four kings who shall arise out of the earth. He's telling us what those four beasts represent. Remember in Daniel chapter 2, we had a vision of King Nebuchadnezzar. What was it? Remember the statue? The statue that represented the four different kingdoms. So these are we're going to see the same kingdoms. These are the same four kings. And this vision is 50 years after the first one. I'm going to pause that just a second. Now, verse 4. What does the first beast look like? In verse 4. A lion. What's different about this lion than others?
Has
Wings. It has wings like an eagle. Remember when I showed you the pictures from the walls, excavated walls of Babylon? What was on those walls? Lions, right. And so the lion is the king of beasts, the eagle is the king of the air, and this beast is clearly Babylon. And then it says that its wings were plucked off. What do you think that means? It was conquered. Yeah, it was conquered. Its wings were plucked off. And then in verse 5, we see the second beast. What was it? What was it like? It was like a bear, right. Now, when Daniel sees this vision, he's just trying to think of some earthly beast that is similar to what he's seeing in the vision, right? And so this one was kind of like a bear. What does it have in its mouth? It has 3 ribs. This beast represents the Medo-Persian Empire. Now, a bear is larger, but more ponderous than a lion. And the Medo-Persian army was noted for its huge size, but slower movements. The bear had one side rised up higher than the other side. The Medo-Persian kingdom was a partnership, remember? But it's a fact of history that through time, the Persians gained greater power and authority over the Medes. And so then you can see it just described as the Persian Empire. The 3 ribs represent the 3 major powers that were conquered by the Medes and Persians. That was Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. Those were major powers at that time, and they conquered all of them and then became the rulers of the known world at that time. Verse 6, after this I looked and behold another. What was it like? It was like a leopard. But what was interesting about this leopard?
It had 3 heads.
How many?
4.
4.
Oh,
And 4 heads and 4 wings.
oh, I see.
And what does that represent? What country? It's on your Greek. Yes, this is the Greek Empire. Country of Greece. Now, at Daniel's time, I don't know if it was even a power, it wasn't a power at all. It might have been just a little island, you know. But he was told that it was Greece. And the leopard is swift, cunning, and agile. Alexander the Great conquered the known world empire in 10 years. In fact, he lay on his bed weeping at age 29 because there were no more worlds left to conquer. He died at about the age of 32. And his empire was then divided between his 4 generals. That's why we see the 4 heads and the 4 wings. And we're going to learn more about that empire in detail later on in another chapter. But that's the 3rd beast. And then we get to verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast. He just says that this 4th beast was terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong, and talks about its teeth and its feet and claws and everything, but he can't think of any known beast that it looks like. It's just undescribable. And so if you go in your online and you ask for pictures of the beasts, the 4th one you can see described all different ways. You know, artists just make up different things, and some of them are just really fantastic of how awful this beast looks, because it's not like any known animal that he knew. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. Now, what happens when you, hopefully, when you pluck up a weed by its roots? It's gone, right? it's just right, hopefully. That's the plan, right?
Right, you might take up another plant with it.
But true.
I think that's what it's referring to here, he said, others.
Yes, yes, that's
But the
good.
horn, you cut it off and
Oh, okay.
like
That's
on
true.
a cow.
That's true, that's
Gone.
true. If you've ever been around cattle and if you cut off their horn, it's not gonna grow back. It's true. I was raised on a cattle ranch, so I can attest to
She
that.
knows.
I know. After a while, we got rid of any of them that had horns though.
Because they got
Okay.
old cow, no arms.
So, the fourth beast was described as being dreadful and terrible and exceedingly strong, and there was no known animal adequate to compare it with. Its destructive power was the thing that really stood out to Daniel. And what does this beast represent? Rome. Previous empires united the known world and spread their culture, especially Greece, and we've talked about that. How Greece was really concerned about spreading their culture. But Rome was ruthless. It was a crushing machine. The horns represent power and authority. After all, Rome is where crucifixion was invented. And they were really cruel and crushing. And in verse 8, we see a little horn that pops up. And where does it come from? It says that it came up among another horn. And 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. So it came up from the midst of the others. First we have 10 horns, and then suddenly we have 8, because 3 are gone and 1 comes up. It plucks them up by the roots. Now let's turn to Revelation 12, verse 3. Revelation 12, verse 3. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its head 7 diadems. And then skip over to verse 9. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. So, this beast is Satan. The dragon is Satan, okay? And in verse 2, did we read verse 2? No, look at verse 2. It's interesting. No, that's the wrong one. Now we're going to go to Revelation 13, verse 2. Revelation 13. Let's read 1 through 6. I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns, and blasphemous names on its heads. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard, its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's. Look, we've got all the 3 previous beasts, all in a composite right there. The beast from Daniel. And to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it? And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to utter blasphemies against God, blaspheming his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. So, we see the dragon, and then we see the beast. The dragon is Satan, and the beast is the Antichrist, and he is controlled by Satan. And this is the same beast in Daniel 7. So this beast represents the Antichrist. Now let's go back to Daniel, and we're going to skip to verse 15 so we can get some more information. Daniel 7, verse 15. We're going to skip over there because we're going to get some more information about these beasts. As for me, Daniel, my spirit within me was anxious, and the visions of my head alarmed me. I approached one of those who stood there and asked him the truth concerning all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of the things, and said that these 4 great beasts are 4 kings who will arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever. So then of all of these beasts, he really wanted to know more about this 4th beast. He'd kind of been told about the first 3 before, and he understood that they were kingdoms that were going to destroy the one before them, but this 4th one was just totally different. And so he said in 19, I desired to know the truth about the 4th beast, which was different from all the rest, exceedingly terrifying, with its teeth of iron and claws of bronze, and which devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. And about the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn that came up, and before which 3 of them fell, the horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke great things and seemed greater than its companions. So
Who was he talking to? Daniel, it says he asked one of those standing by me.
I think I believe it's an angel. An angel comes to him. Yeah, in another chapter, we're going to see that the angel Gabriel comes and talks to him. It's actually named. But that's why we said that we saw the 4 spirits, and I believe an angel came to him in a vision and is speaking to him directly from God.
He said he was a man of ancient.
Said what?
Well,
A man of ancient authority.
yeah, we're going to talk about him. Yeah, we're going to talk about the ancient one a little bit. So I believe he's talking to an angel. Yes. So the angel indicates that the Roman Empire would pass through. It's talking about 3 different stages of history, I believe, here. And we're going to look at those. So he says that, as I looked, this horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given for the saints of the Most High. So we're talking about a time at the end times that hasn't happened yet. And we're going to see the final judgment. Verse 23 says, As for the 4th beast, there shall be a 4th kingdom on the earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms, and it shall devour the whole earth and trample it down and break it in pieces. As I was reading commentaries, they said that this was talking about how ancient Rome devoured and crushed a much greater area than the earlier 3 kingdoms did. So this is in the past. Rome came along and crushed all the previous kingdoms, and it lasted quite a while. Well, actually, Rome was never conquered. So that's why we still have Rome. It's not a world power anymore, but Rome was never actually conquered. It fell from within. And so there's still vestiges of Rome today. And we are, there's still descendants of Rome, etc., right now. And then in verse 24, it says, As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom, 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them. He shall be different from the former ones, and shall put down 3 kings. The second stage could be called the 10 kingdom stage. It says that 10 kingdoms will arise out of the 4th kingdom. And this kingdom, of course, is represented by Rome. Since the 10 horns are part of the fourth beast, this means that eventually the Roman Empire will have 10 rulers, or will consist of a 10-nation confederation who will rule simultaneously. Now, when the European Union was first formed, many thought that it was a fulfillment of this prophecy. Today, the EU consists of 26 countries. So this actually hasn't happened yet. The fulfillment of this prophecy is still in the future. And then the third stage could be called the Antichrist stage. In verse 24, it says that, go back to there. It's talking about another shall arise after them, he shall be different, and he shall put down 3 kings, and he shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the law, and they shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. So the angel is describing the king who will conquer the others and dominate the entire empire, and eventually become world dictator, the Antichrist. Now, once this king comes into full power, he's going to blaspheme God, he's going to prosecute the saints of the Most High, and it says he's going to intend to change times and law. And the saints will be given into his hand for time, times, and half a time. Time means 1 year. Times are 2 years. So that makes 3 years, and half a time. 3.5 years. That's why whenever you're studying, and we'll see this again and again in Revelation, it talks about the 7 years that are going to be in the middle. We're going to see that it's, right, the Antichrist is going to break his covenant with the people at 3.5 years. So this is way back in Daniel, it's talking about this Antichrist who is going to be given dominion for 3.5 years. There's another verse. Let's look at Revelation 13 again, 5. We're talking about the beast again. 13:5. The beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words. We saw that in Daniel. And it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. 42 months is 3.5 years. So it's the very same as we see in Daniel. And we see him uttering blasphemies against God and blaspheming his name and his dwelling and those who dwell in heaven. And it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them, and authority was given it over every tribe and people and language and nation, and all who dwell on the earth will worship it. Everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. Now, it says that he is given authority over the saints. You might go, now, who are these saints? Are we these saints? There's 3 different saints that are described in the Bible. The first are the Old Testament saints. The second is the church. We are called saints in the New Testament, right? We are saints, saints of God. And then there's the tribulation saints. So after, we know when Jesus comes in the clouds and he takes the church is raptured, we won't be here anymore. So it's not talking about us, right? He doesn't have authority over us because we've already gone to heaven to be with him until he comes until his second coming, after the tribulation. And so, but during the tribulation, when all this stuff's happening, there will still be people who will go, my husband or my cousin told me about Jesus and I just didn't accept. And there's going to be people who then will accept the Lord during the tribulation. There'll be a lot of people who will turn to the Lord. There will be a lot of Jews who will recognize that Jesus was the Messiah. And so these are the saints that is talking about here, the tribulation saints. But even though they come to know the Lord and they're saved, they're still going to be greatly persecuted. They're going to wish they had accepted before the tribulation started. Right?
You had talked
42 months or the 3.5 years. Do you
Mhm.
think that's our timetable, or do you think it's?
I do. I think it's our timetable because we see on and on, well, God gave us time. And so that's why he designated a specific time, because he's talking to us. This is our time. And so, yeah, I think it's literal. I don't think it's, just significant. Yeah, I really believe when God says it's 3.5 years, that's what he means. 42 months is 42 months. And I believe that the earth was created in 7 days. 24 hours.
I think the only time, should use that word, that God describes no time is when he describes himself.
Right. True.
Moses said, "Who shall I say has sent me?" God says, "I am."
Right, exactly.
Jesus said, "Before Moses was, I am."
That's right.
The only time doesn't exist is describing God. There's no past, present, or future with God.
That's right.
It's only now.
And that's just hard for us to wrap our
And
mind
I can't
around.
wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
I've been under the influence of anesthesia about 6 times. And it is the weirdest thing that in a moment you go to sleep and hours pass and somebody wakes you up. And that is mind-boggling.
And it's like you just went to sleep. Right.
Just one quick example. I was having hernia surgery, and they were putting me to sleep, but I wasn't quite there yet. And he was reaching down with his marker to make a mark on my stomach.
Uh-huh.
The other doctor said, "I don't think he's out yet." That's all I remember. 2 hours later, he is putting the bandage on my
Right.
abdomen. And I woke up as he's pressing it. I'm thinking, he's cutting me. That's the last thing I heard.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I literally tried to sit up on the table. They said, "You're okay, we're done." And that just has always stuck with me, is trying to describe
Good.
time
Good.
and God.
Yeah, it really is hard
Well,
to
there were
just,
so many people that didn't believe in Christ, so, but they still believe in before Christ's time and after Christ, right? I mean, they acknowledge the time.
you mean the Old Testament saints?
Well, no, just in our years that we count. But there were a lot of people that still didn't believe Christ back when that he was actually born, but they're okay with the year 101 and then 1975. I mean, you see
So
what I'm saying?
Jews even, would be
Yeah.
kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't recognize Christ as being Christ, but they
Right.
recognize the time.
AD
Oh, yes,
BC.
yes.
Right.
Right, yeah. It's a property of this earth. It's somehow God made humans, is that our days are numbered. You know? We have a beginning and we have an end. But God and his angels do not. And the saints do not.
But are you saying like BC
And,
and?
yeah, you just would think that they would argue that if they didn't
Yeah,
believe
you
in
would
that.
Well, but that's why we see that they've tried to change. It always used to be AD, and now it's CE, current era.
I forgot.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
they try to make it current era instead of after AD, which is after Christ's death. You'll see that. It's now CE. But
They just got rid of it, but we haven't accepted it.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
trying to deny it. Okay, now let's go back to verse 9 in Daniel. Go back to verse 9. 7, verse 9. And this is about the Ancient of Days. After the vision of the beast, we see that Daniel saw a vision of the Ancient of Days. As I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, its wheels were burning fire. Who do you think the Ancient of Days is? Yes, it's God. It's God himself. A stream of fire issued and came out from before him. 1,000,000 served him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened. David Jeremiah, his commentary says that the term Ancient of Days literally means the elderly one, the one who has been around forever, the one who never had a beginning. Let's go back to Revelation. Let's look at Revelation 1, verse 14. Revelation 1, 14. It says, the hairs of his head were white, like white wool, like snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze refined in a furnace, and his voice was like the roar of many waters. So here he's describing God. And then skip over to chapter 5, verse 11. Then I looked and heard around the throne and the living creatures and the elders the voice of many angels, numbering myriads of myriads and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. So here again we see thousands and myriads upon myriads and thousands before the throne. So that's, again, the same kind of picture in Revelation as in Daniel. Then in verse 11, it says, Daniel, back to Daniel. Yes, sorry. Daniel 7. Daniel 7:11. I looked then because of the sound of the great words that the horn was speaking. And as I looked, the beast was killed, and its body destroyed, and given over to be burned with fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away. Now let's go back to Revelation, Revelation 19. Verse 19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against him who was sitting on the horse and against his army. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who in its presence had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. So we see that the beast, the Antichrist, will be destroyed and will be thrown into the lake of fire, and it says that in Daniel. You will be destroyed and given over to be burned with fire. So, what is it that's going to bring his dominion, his rule to an end? This is in verse 13. It's the second coming of Christ. So we have the rapture, we have the tribulation, and then at the end of the tribulation is the second coming of Christ. And that's in verse 13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. And then verses 26 and 27. Skip over to that in same chapter.
What chapter are you?
7.
Oh.
Daniel 7. Sorry. Sorry. Daniel 7, now 26. and 27.
7:27.
But the court shall sit in judgment, and his dominion shall be taken away. This is talking of the Antichrist. To be consumed and destroyed to the end. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. His kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Now let's turn to Matthew. Matthew chapter 24. Matthew 24. Verse 29. Matthew 24, 29 and 30. Immediately after the tribulation.
Slow down.
Okay.
Everybody got it?
Matthew.
You belong in another place.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 29.
Go ahead.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call. All right? And then back to Revelation, chapter 11. Revelation 11.
We're practicing our sword drill.
I said keep your finger there. All right. Revelation chapter 11, verse 15. Then the seventh angel blew his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever." Skip over to verse chapter 19, just bringing out just a few key verses. Chapter 19 of Revelation, verse 11. Revelation 19:11. Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems, and he has a name written that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and the name by which he is called is the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. From his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh he has the name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And then skip to verse 19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against him who was sitting on the horse and against his army. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet, who in its presence had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. So, when Jesus comes to set up his kingdom, how long is it going to last?
Forever.
Forever and ever. It's an everlasting kingdom. And then the last verse in this chapter is, go back to Daniel. Back to Daniel.
Only got so many fingers.
Daniel 7, the last verse. Here is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly alarmed me, and my color changed. But I kept the matter in my heart. So it looks like Daniel didn't tell anybody about the vision right away. He kept it in his heart. He kept pondering it. It greatly alarmed him. It really disturbed him, everything that he had seen. And we're going to see later that he continued to pray about it, and then God is going to give him further clarification. And that's what we're going to see in some of the next chapters that we're going to study, is further clarification of Daniel 7. But Daniel 7 is just a huge, huge chapter in the Bible. And it's just got so much to understand in it. But if you look at the rest of the word, like in Revelation and in other places, then you can understand more of what in the world is going on that you don't understand if you just read it.